When Dr. Lucas looked up and saw the man walking down the hospital corridor, his heart skipped a beat. It was him, without a doubt. After 5 years, the man who had disappeared had finally reappeared. But what had brought him there, at that very particular moment? Before continuing, I invite you to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other exciting stories like this one. Enjoy! Dr. Lucas was one of those doctors who didn't just do his job. He lived every shift, every patient, with a dedication that went beyond the ordinary. He had been working at the Siena Hospital for more than 10 years and was now a familiar figure, respected and loved by colleagues and patients. His life was divided between the emergency department, where he faced new challenges every day, and a modest home he shared with his wife and 2 children. Despite the fatigue, Lucas never complained and had earned a reputation as a calm, attentive, and always available doctor. But there was one event that had been tormenting him for a long time, a thought that would not leave him in peace. 5 years earlier, a young man had arrived at the hospital in critical condition after a car accident. He was the last passenger pulled from the wreckage of a bus, and his situation was desperate. Lucas had done everything he could to save him, and after days of intensive care, it seemed that the boy, whom no one knew and who had no documents with him, had recovered. But just when everything seemed to be going well, the young man had disappeared into thin air. No one knew where he had gone, or why he had decided to leave without a trace. That mystery remained etched in Dr. Lucas's mind, and he sometimes wondered what had become of the patient, whom he and his staff had called Fred. Meanwhile, Dr. Lucas's life had gone on. Every now and then, between shifts, that memory would return, like a shadow that couldn't dissipate. Furthermore, that young man had become almost a legend among the hospital staff, the missing patient, the young man without a past. It was a morning like any other when a young woman, Teresa, arrived at the emergency room. She was complaining of intense abdominal pain, but when Lucas examined her, he immediately understood what was happening. Teresa was in labor, even if she didn't realize it. Lucas calmly and professionally took care of everything, and a few minutes later, a beautiful baby boy was born. The joy in the room was palpable. Teresa, holding the newborn in her arms, looked around, visibly moved. "My boy is out," she said. "Could you call him? I want him to see our baby." Lucas walked out of the room with a smile, thinking that everything had worked out for the best. But when he saw the man waiting in the hallway, the smile on his face abruptly disappeared. The man standing there in the hallway was a shadow from the past, a face he would never forget. A sudden flash crossed his mind, taking him back to those tumultuous days 5 years ago. The young man before him, though marked by a few fine lines, was unmistakable. Fred's tired eyes struck him like a blow to the heart. A whirlwind of emotions hit him: surprise, disbelief, and a vague sense of anguish. How could he be there today at that crucial moment? For years he had tried to understand what had happened to that mysterious boy, and now, suddenly, there he was, in front of him, as if fate had decided to finally reveal that unsolved secret. It was an incredible turn of events, a meeting that no one could have ever imagined. Dr. Lucas, his heart in his throat, could not help but stop and look at the man he had considered an unsolved mystery for so long. And now, here he was, with a new life, a family, and a future that seemed to finally be taking shape. If you like this story, leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for your support. Lucas wasted no time. He had a moral and perhaps even legal obligation to act. Quietly, he picked up the phone and called the police, informing them that he had found the young man who had disappeared so many years before. But as he waited for the police to arrive, he couldn't help but think. Fred, that young man, seemed happy. He had found a balance, a woman who loved him, and a newborn baby. Was what he was doing right? What if he had decided to disappear for a good reason? What would happen when the police arrived? When Fred saw him, his face lit up with recognition. "Doctor," he said, his voice low but clear. "I remember you. I'm sorry I ran away. I wasn't myself. Those days were a blur, and I didn't know what I was doing." Lucas listened in silence, trying to understand his motivations. Fred explained that after the accident, he remembered nothing of his past. He had been found by a family who worked on a farm outside of town, and from there, he had started a new life. He had met Teresa, they had fallen in love, and now, with the arrival of their son, he felt he had finally found peace. But his mind was still wrapped up in the mystery of his past. "I don't know who I was before that accident," he confessed, "but now I know who I want to be." As Fred spoke, Lucas felt a sense of understanding rising inside him. Maybe this young man deserved a second chance, away from the unanswered questions and ghosts of the past. But before he could say anything, the police arrived. Fred turned toward them, his expression a mixture of fear and resignation. He offered no resistance as he was led out of the hospital, and as he walked away, Lucas couldn't help but wonder what was going to happen next. That evening, Lucas sat in his study for a long time, thinking about what had happened. Fred had come back into his life so suddenly, and now, in an instant, everything seemed to slip away again. But one thing was certain. Fred's past may have been complicated and dark, but the future, with the arrival of his baby, was full of hope. Fred had never stopped looking for his place in the world. The police checks were necessary, but did not compromise the young man's life. Now, with Teresa and their son, he had finally found his way.